Welcome to another Numismatic Notes with Benjamin. I am Benjamin, and today I'm going to discuss numerals with you. Most of you who are collectors of currency and coins from around the world are well aware that there are words that spell out numbers and there are digits that are a symbolic way to have a number recorded. And on money from around the world, we have digits like these that we use in Western countries, and they use them in Asian countries and in the Middle East and in African countries as well, because they're recognized by most people of the world. Some places, such as Asia, will also have these numbers written in one of their corners in a numeral that fits with the Chinese characters. You go to nations where Arabic is the language spoken, you might find Arabic numerals used. They correspond to these Western digits, but they are Arabic numerals. And so it's very common to see numerals from around the world that exist. However, I'm going to share with you today a new numeral system that a lot of people may not be aware of. And that's a New World number system, which had a zero before many number systems in the West did. I'm talking, of course, about the numbers that were used by the Mayans, and the Mayans were a native people in Central America region, and in the 1970s, Thomas de la Rue started using started using Mayan numbers on particularly the nation of Guatemala's banknotes. And to this day, these numbers appear on Guatemalan banknotes, and they seem to be the only nation that uses Mayan numbers. And I thought we'd enjoy getting to a little tiny lesson on Mayan numbers. Here's a little bit of an example. Mayan numbers are, and I'm not pretending to say this right, are a vigesimal system, which is based on 20 and not on our 10. And they are only written with three symbols: a shell, a dot, and a bar. And so you can stack up those and make the numbers through 19. And then when you get to 20 and higher, you actually have to visually expand your writing of the notes so that they appear in like tiered categories, but just like this pyramid here. You have the bottom numbers in this quadrant equaling 1, and then you have numbers in this section, meaning you have to multiply that number by 20, and then you have numbers in the top section that you would have to multiply by 400, and so forth and so forth and so forth. But for the purpose of numbers that appear on banknotes, we only have to worry about the bottom tier and the middle tier. And once you see it, it makes a whole lot of sense. Now, you might be wondering, where is the Mayan number on this half quetzal? And there is no Mayan number on this half quetzal, because there is no Mayan number that is half of a number. However, they could have said 50 centavos or something and then had a Mayan number, but I'm not going to argue with them there. But I want you to see, I have half through 50 from Guatemala, and I want you guys to see the Mayan numbers on those notes. If you have a banknote that's higher than a 50, like one of the hundreds or 200s, you might post it on there or tell me how I can get it real cheap so that I can have it too. And then we'll go from there. But I took the trouble with my beautiful handwriting to make some index cards, and we'll just go from there. This is a picture of a shell. And I use that because that's approximation of the shell that I found online, and that it looks similar to the oval shell that you'll see on these banknotes of Guatemala very soon. This represents a 0. And then here's the dot, which represents 1. And then a dash, which represents 5. And so having that basic knowledge makes it pretty easy for us to go through the numbers. And I'm going to go through 20, and then I might do the 50, the 100, the 500, and the 1,000, because those are banknotes that have been authorized by the government of Guatemala, even though they haven't issued a 500 or 1,000 quetzal just yet. But let's start with 0. Here's 0, and here is how the Mayans wrote 0. Easy enough, huh? Here's 1, and how the Mayans wrote it. Here's 2, and how the Mayans wrote it. How about 3? And how the Mayans wrote it. So it's pretty simple, and in some ways it struck me that it could be the tally marks that we sometimes use here in the West, and basically, you know, even some of the lower Chinese numbers, like the 1 through 3 in Chinese. Speaking of Chinese, here's how I write the 4, but in China, I guess that's bad luck, and so they don't even have a 4 on their elevator. They have the letter F to stand for 4. But that's for another video. There's your 4 dots equaling the number 4. Number 5 is where you no longer use the dots, but you change the dots for a single horizontal bar. Here's 6, and you can see that a horizontal bar on the bottom with a dot on the top shows the digits 1 and 5 for a total of 6. Here's 7. 2 dots with a bar equaling 7. So far it's easy peasy lemon squeezy. What do you think an 8 would be? That's right, a bar with 3 dots. Here's a 9. Thinking about what we know, what do you think that would be? Good job, students. You have a bar and 4 dots equaling 9. Now we're moving on to 10. And you can't have more than 4 dots. So 4 dots and then 1 more would make it a bar. So 2 bars equal 10. So to make 11, you would have 2 bars equaling 10 and 1 dot equaling 1 for a total of 11. And it's pretty. It makes a whole lot of sense. 12 is just simply 2 bars and 2 dots. 13 is simply, let's guess, 2 bars and 3 dots? Yay! 2 bars and 3 dots. You guys are even better than I am. At least I can hear you celebrating around the world that you know your Mayan numbers now. 14 would be 2 bars and 4 dots. Sure enough, 2 bars and 4 dots. Moving on to 15. You can't have more than 4 dots. So it's exchanged for another bar. So 15 would be 3 bars. And it got me thinking, as somebody who loves to play Mahjong as much as I do, I think it'd be awesome if they made a Mahjong game in Mayan numbers. So if you are a big Mahjonger like I am, get with those companies and tell them, hey, make a Mahjong game with Mayan numbers. Here's 16. So I'm guessing 3 bars and a dot. And I guess when you know, it's not really a guess anymore, is it? Let's move on to 17. 3 bars, I'm predicting 3 bars and 2 dots. And sorry about my fingernails, but I am a gardener, and I just don't even care, y'all. I mean, my thumbnails are a little bit more realistic, but I like to use my hands in my garden. I feel one with the earth, and I feel like God's keeping his promise whenever I have struggles in my garden and dirt under my fingernails. But that's for another video as well. Here's 18. 3 bars and 3 dots is my guess. Ta-da! 3 bars and 3 dots. And 19. 3 bars and 4 dots. And then just like you don't have more than 3 bars or more than 4 dots, you're not going to follow this routine for any more of the Mayan numbers. You're going to move from the tier 1 at the bottom of the pyramid, and you're going to start having digits in a middle section and digits in a bottom section. So to make a 20, you are going to have a shell representing a single digit, 1 through 19. And then you're going to have a 1 in a top quadrant, which means you have to multiply that number by 20. So you have 20 and then a placeholder of 0 for a total of 20. So a dot over a shell is 20. For 21, that would be a dot over a dot, because this middle quadrant dot or the top quadrant dot is times 20, and then this is a single digit. So 21. So 22 is going to be a 20 and then 2 dots. Ta-da! And then I think you can see how it goes on after 22. 23 would be 1 dot on the top, which would be times 20, and then 3 dots on the bottom. And there you go, 23. So they don't really look like our number system, and since it's not a base 10, it seems a little clunky to wrap our heads around it, but then I can see after just a little bit of an effort how easy it would be to do this. So what do you think 50 might be? So since you're adding, let's see, the top quadrant, you could have 2 dots because 2 times 20 is 40. And then do we have characters that we can use to represent a 10 in the 1 section? Yes, we do. We have 2 bars. So I'm going to guess 2 dots and 2 bars. Ta-da! 2 times 20 is 40. 2 bars is 10 for a total of 50. And then for 100, let's see, we're using a top section and a lower section. So there are no 1 digits, or there are no single digits. So I'm going to put a shell on the bottom. And then I'm going to have a bar on top because a bar equals 5. And 5 times 20 is 100. So I want to guess a bar over a shell. And sure enough, we have it. A bar equaling 100 over a shell. And then 200 is, I'm guessing, just as simple. We have a shell on the bottom because we have no single digits. And then we're going to have 2 bars because 10 times, we're going to have a bar because that would be like 5 times 20. Or 2 bars, which would be 10 times 20, which would be 200 over a shell. So 2 bars over a shell. Ta-da! Anybody want to figure out, based on what we've learned so far, as to what represents a 500? So when you get to 500, you are going to go up 1 more level. So you have the base level, and then you have the times 20 level. Now you're in the times 400 level. So we're going to have a dot times 400 equaling 400. We're going to have a bar times 20, which equals 100, and we're going to have a shell. So I'm thinking we're going to have a dot, a bar, and a shell. 1 dot in the top quadrant times 400. 1 bar, which is 5, times 20, which is 100, and a shell, which is 0. So 400 plus 100 plus 0 equals 500. So if Guatemala ever follows the pattern and makes a $500 bill, you know the Mayan numbers that are going to appear on it. And finally, do you think you can get 1,000? Start from the top, and remember, every number times 400 in the top quadrant will have a representation with a dot or a bar. So in the case of 1,000, I think 2 dots would times 400 would equal 800. And then I would need to come up with another remaining 200. So I go to the middle quadrant, and I would have 10 times, or I would have, let's see, 5, 10 times 20, which would equal 200. So I would have 2 bars equaling 200 over a shell. So I'm thinking I'm going to have 2 dots over 2 bars over a shell. 2 dots equals 800. 2 bars equals 200, and a shell. Add those all up, you have 1,000. And those are the Mayan characters that would appear on the Guatemalan banknotes. Now, as it so happens, I have the banknotes of Guatemala, so we can investigate to see if I'm lying to you or not. Now, mind you, these would only appear on notes that came out since 1971. So on this half Quetzal, there's a 50 there, but there's a half in the corners. There are no Mayan numbers. On the 1 Quetzal, do you guys see the Mayan numbers? Here's a Western number, Western number, Western number. Right here's a dot, and that stands for 1 in Mayan numerals. And when you look at the back of the note, you'll see that in this corner is a 1 as well. Pretty cool, huh? Let's take a look at the 5. Do you see the Roman, or do you see the Mayan numeral in the corner on this note? You should see it right there. It's a bar. The bar stands for 5 in Mayan numbers. And again, you see that echoed on the back. Although these numbers escape most people's notice because they just see it as part of a design. And there's the bar right there of the Mayan numerals. I think this was ingenious of Thomas de la Rue and the nation of Guatemala. And they have a huge Mayan population, so maybe this did help with the locals. Although I haven't heard that they still actively use this number system, but I still think it's historical, and I wish more countries were as amazing. Here's a 10 quetzal. You see the Mayan numeral for 10. 2 bars right there. Each bar stands for 5, so they total up to 10. And there's the 2 bars right there. So yeah, I don't know why I just woke up one day and was like, hey, what are those marks on this Guatemalan banknote? And boom, discovered that they were Mayan numerals. Here's your 50. Or, I'm sorry, here's your 20. And over here you have a dot in the second tier, so 1 times 20 is 20 over a shell. You have 20 right there in Roman or in Mayan numerals. And you have it again right there. And the last note I have in the family is a 50. I don't have a 100 or a 200. I am accepting donations. Ha 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 ha. I won't always be a poor teacher, y'all. Whenever I get those bigger notes, I'll show them. Maybe in a short. But here you have your 50. So you have 2 dots in the times 20 section. So that's 40. And then you have 10. So 40 plus 10 is 50. And I need some more coffee in the middle so that I can understand these numbers in the corner. But here you have 50 one more time. Well, what do you think, guys? Was it worth the time you spent to learn the Mayan digits that appear on only one country's banknotes in the entire world? If you don't have any Guatemalan banknotes in your collection, get some. This is fascinating, guys. And if you want to cuss or discuss or have further conversation about shells, dots, and sticks, I know that shells, dots, and sticks will not break my bones. So give me a holler and like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I am Benjamin. This is Numismatic Notes with Benjamin. Have a jewel of a day.